arrived. Come on in. Okay, now, welcome. Okay, I'll show you around. This is the entrance of Rajaram's house and my wife's. This is the original poster which formed Tip Records. It's a poster I bought on Portobello Road about 40 years ago, and I'm sure this face is quite familiar to some of you people out there. Here we have various paintings. This is a painting of my dealer, just a friend. Here's my wife hallucinating on a magic carpet that I painted. We're walking up the stairs. Here we have a painting of Goa. A friend of mine visited me, Shambhu Baba. I used to play with him in the 60s, and he did this beautiful drawing of the coconut trees. Above it's a painting by my mother, who is a really beautiful artist and a beautiful person, and that's one of her original paintings. Moving on here, there's a painting by my wife, also an extremely talented painter. And that's a painting right here of her on that wall playing that magic instrument. That's my wife, Sita Devici. And there she is. That's a painting I did quite a number of years ago. Anyhow, and we walk up the stairs, you'll see paintings of Greece and all the different places we've lived in. That's a painting by my daughter when she was 7 years old, of Scotland. And here's some more paintings my wife did. They're beautiful works, flowers. And here's another one up here of Shambhu Babaji meditating on a crystal. I painted that up in the house too. He's a very good friend of mine living in Taos, New Mexico. Brilliant musician. And here we're still walking up the stairs, posters from various tours. That was the Stash Bag tour in Japan, 2006. It was amazing. And keep winding your way up. This is my gong. I usually hit that once a day just to give the right resonance. And welcome. We're now on the top floor of my pad in Notting Hill Gate. Welcome to the Butterfly Collection, the original Quintessence poster, the band that I was in the late 60s. We'll talk about that a little later. And that was the first album that we had on Island Records. Anyhow, further, come on in. This is the room where it all happens. This is the headquarters, the nerve center. This is where I relax and play and generally get my life in order. So you're welcome to be here, everybody. It's a beautiful day. And we're going to just have a talk like I'm talking to some friends. Because there's a lot to say, but a little time to say it in. But what really do I want to talk about? Well, about what an amazing journey it is to be here and to have arrived at this point. The place we're sitting in right now is a house we've had 43 years. That's right, 43 years since the 60s. We moved in here. My daughter lives here. My granddaughter lives here. My wife lives here. The whole family unit lives in this house. But this is my little penthouse up here where I can seek some refuge from the chaos of the world. As I was saying, it's been a long trip. I was born in Australia. I'll just have a little mini history. Probably most of you know my life better than I know it myself. But I grew up in Australia, was educated there or not educated there. I ran away from school. And then when I was 17, I got on a contaminated pork meat ship, which was sailing to the south of India. Got a passage for £5. So at the age of 17, I ran away from Australia and found myself in the south of India looking for hash. And that was really the beginning of the story. I found myself a bit later on when I was 18 and 19 in Ibiza, and that's when Ibiza was really starting to come good. This was 1959, before your parents were born probably, but there I was in Ibiza in 1959 and nothing's changed. It was the same scene as it is today, everybody looking for drugs and partying. And it really was a great experience after growing up in the sedate suburbs of Melbourne, Victoria, Australia, which was very groovy in its own way. However, I had to find my own way, and I went to New York to study jazz flute. And that was really a beginning of a journey of really getting serious about music. And I went to the Melbourne Conservatorium, started traveling around the world, learnt jazz improvisation, and I realized really the way that I wanted to go musically was to improvise. Very much like painting. You just get the brush and you start from somewhere and you create something that's from your inspiration. And that really appealed to me. There's an ambulance going by. That is not a sound effect. That's a real ambulance. However, the journey was long and there was a lot of sort of oceans to cross, and I must have gone around the world 2 or 3 times sort of searching for this elusive thing which I realized was music. And one day I heard the flute coming out of a shop, and I realized that was my instrument, and I really wanted to learn to play it and play with other people. And so it was a long, long journey, and came back here in the 60s to settle down because my wife was pregnant with my daughter. And I decided to put a band together, which was an interesting phenomena because it was the same year that the Pink Floyd was going to break up. They landed on the moon. It was 69. I was living in this house, and we formed a band called Quintessence, and we went out and did 500 gigs, and we played for openers with the Pink Floyd and Led Zeppelin, The Who, and all of that. We were the Schnorrer band. We came out with 100 watts and they came out with 100,000. But it was a great experience, and we did all these gigs and stuff like that. And then that finished, and we had a long period of nothing really much happening in the 80s except buying electronic gear. And then I went to the fabled magic land of Goa in 89, and that's when it all started, because we heard the new music that had come from another planet. We were by the Arabian Sea, and we lived in our houses, and there were parties every night, and thousands of people, incredible music and DJs, and that was the spirit of Goa. Simultaneously, of course, it was happening all around the world, but in Goa it was free and it was very liberated, and one met a lot of good friends who are still friends today, the ones who haven't died, that is. Anyhow, that was the Goa scene, and formed a record label, Infinity Project. Merged, we had a band called Infinity Project, you probably know about that, and then that formed the Infinity Project to Tip Records, and Tip Records been going for 14 years, and you know that story. And then after the Infinity Project, I met in the studios, everybody knows the story, Simon Posford, the maestro, and there he was, this young, handsome, tall English gentleman, and we got together and started making music for Infinity Project. And then we did, in 96, the first Shpongled, as we'd gone to Glastonbury together and taken acid and got Shpongled. And then we came back and wrote this track, Rumours of Vapors, and Shpongled was formed. But then it was a very slow process to get to where we are today, which is some 10 or 12 years later. 3 albums later, working on our 4th album. And we've just done this Roundhouse concert, as you know, which I'm not even going to refer to. If you were there, you were there. That was on Halloween, and it was quite a night. In fact, it was a fantastic night. And it's put Shpongled on the road. We're now going off to do a big concert in Moscow, and we're going to go and to Australia, and Shpongled's on the road, and we're having a lot of fun. So that's basically sort of what's been happening with the music world. And, you know, it makes me think about what is this thing called music, and why is music so important to all of us? And it is because music is probably the most important thing in the world today. Music is what gives us our inspiration, it gives us our hope, it's our solace, it's our enjoyment, and it unites us. It's like we are part of the giant symphony that's being played cosmically, and it's like each one of us is an instrument. And the problem is getting this instrument in tune. It's the same thing like if you play the guitar or anything else, or the flute. You've got to play in tune, and to be in tune, you've got to be in tune. And it means you've got to have a harmony within yourself and pursue those higher things that we're really aspiring to. Because music is that universal language, and it binds us all, and we've witnessed this phenomenal growth from the early 90s to where we are now in 2008 and going beyond, of this micro scene that started with a few hundred people in Goa, and then it progressed. I remember there was a time in Brazil when I started DJing in the late 90s, and there were literally 20 or 30 people at the trance parties. Simon did a party yesterday, which he came back from Brazil, and there were 40,000 there. And this is not unusual. We often go over there and just do DJ sets to 20,000 people, 15,000 people, or 500 people. It doesn't matter. But this scene has exploded, and it's exploded around the world. Like stocks and shares, some places are going up and some places are going down. At the moment, certain countries have really got problems economically, and the parties are sort of not so good. And in other places, it's like a forest fire where it's just flaming, like in Russia or Serbia or Australia or many, many other places. But the beautiful thing about this whole scene and what we're responsible for, all of us, all our brothers and sisters, is this torch has been lit, this eternal flame has been lit, which has given us great hope for the future, and it's really bound us together as a tribe, as a world tribe. And it's like we're all in this together, and if we go to the parties all around the world, as we do every week, we're in a different place, you see the same thing. Youngsters and old people and different castes and creeds and colors, and everybody getting down and losing themselves, lyserging and merging and splurging and into the music and diving deep into the sound. And through that brotherhood and sisterhood, you don't have fights, and you don't have these stabbings and bad scenes. You don't have unruly behavior. People look out for each other, and wherever you go in the world, I'm happy to say we've got friends everywhere, and you've got friends everywhere, and we are a tribe that is peaceful. And I always encourage people to bring their parents to the gigs like I used to do, and I'd bring my granddaughter to Shpongled and my wife and uncles and anybody else who would like to come, because this music is for everybody. There is no age, because the age is a number, and we are on the path of groovology, and it's time to really express that in music and dance. There's nothing higher than music. I mean, music is everybody's life, and the more you get into it, the more you love it. And there's so many different types of music for so many different types of people. You know, they asked the Buddha once, they said to the Buddha, "Are you a king?" And the Buddha said no. And they said, "Are you enlightened?" And the Buddha said no. And they said, "Are you a god then?" And the Buddha said no. And the disciple said, "Well, what are you?" And the Buddha looked at him and he said, "I'm awake." And this is the thing to be now, is to awaken our consciousness and awaken our good vibe quality and awaken our potential for having fun, because that's what it's all about. If it isn't fun, you shouldn't be doing it. And what could be more fun than having a party and getting high and being with your friends and dancing all night under the full moon in front of nature, with nature, talking to the plants, hugging the trees, having a good time with everything and treating everything with respect, like so many religions do. Even a stone, even a leaf, you have to treat as beautiful things on our planet. And we have to realize how blessed we are and how lucky we are. We're not starving in some dust, crop-derived, waterless place where there's nothing except the Taliban or whatever, where we have the freedom of expression and the pursuit of happiness and to groove ever afterwards. And that's what we're going to do. And that's what our mission is. And here I am, I'm 68 next month. That's right, 68. I was born in 1940. And I feel really, as the whole thing is sort of almost beginning now, it's our opportunity to really get it on and kick out the jams and really rock. And this is up to us as individual and all the musicians out there and all the listeners out there and all the babes out there and all the dudes out there. And it's like we are one giant party ready to explode. And we're waiting for it, and we're stimulating it. And through the record labels and Twisted and their great divine insight and promoting these amazing events, we have to thank them, because these people are visionaries, because other people aren't doing it. And we've got a lot of adversity, and there's a lot of problems with the police and the governments and everything. But we go beyond that because we're not governed by those rules. The most important thing is to liberate your head and get into harmony, and whatever you need to do, that you got to do. And I don't mind saying this to you. I started taking acid, as you probably know, with Timothy Leary and the Bob Dylan days in the late 50s in Greenwich Village, and we all had LSD, tons of it, and it was all legal, and we didn't know what we were doing, but they didn't make it illegal till 1966. But I would like to say, after 1,000 plus acid trips, that I feel fine. And if you want to use me as a biological experiment, I'm willing to take the stand and say most of the stuff people tell you is bullshit, because it's really how you use something and the attitude you use something and the responsibility how you use something. And it really is our duty to blow the cobwebs off our internal mirror and get clean and get high and get pure. And people say, well, how do you get energy and stuff like to do this at 68? And there are various things you can do which have been passed on to me by my gurus and by my teachers and various people. One of the things to give yourself energy if you're really tired is to get your breathing straight and to make sure you're really taking in your breathing and holding it and letting it out. Another thing is to use the power of mantra. word combinations, secret, mystic word combinations that have been used for thousands of years in India. Om Namah Shivaya is one of them. That's a great secret. You probably know it, but if you ever need some energy, you just have to stand there and go Om Namah Shivaya and really remember the name of Shiva can give you power, or whatever you believe in. What we're basically doing is to search for our beloved, whatever that beloved may be. And through the search of the beloved is music, because that is the string that will lead us through the maze of this worldliness to attach us back to our primal refuge, our place of sanctity, our place of spirituality. Our real being, our real truth is to be one with that universe and that one with the universal sound. You know, in the beginning was Om. Everything is music, everything is rhythm. The baby moves, the mother feeds it, the baby cries, you rock the cradle. It's all rhythm, man. So we've got to get our rhythm together. We've got to get in time. We've got to get hip to the beat. We've got to get into the right key, and we've got to get in tune. So you say, how do you tune yourself? Yeah, how do you tune yourself? By not taking the wrong drugs would be a starter. You take the right drugs. If you take the wrong drugs, you're in serious problems. You're going to end up in a cul-de-sac or worse. What else do? You're right, you have good company. You treat people with respect, and you hang out with the people who are for you and who are going to make you high and happy, and who are your friends and your colleagues and worthy constituents, and you'll go through life with those people. Friendship is great. It's one of the greatest gifts of love on the planet, as we all know. And these are another things. So you have good company, you stay off bad things, you do your breathing, you stretch a bit, and you have faith that you can do it. And you've got to say to yourself, there is no such a thing as can't doing it. We can do anything we really want to do. Just set ourselves some goals and make sure those goals are the goals you want to aspire to, because it's decision time. It doesn't matter where you are, and it's time to make choices, and it's time to take risks. And that's why I left Australia when I was 17 and went to a crazy place like India and Ibiza and New York City and all of those dangerous places, really. Because you're trying to find somebody, or you're trying to find something, and you're looking for that resonance. That's something that will say, yeah, I feel comfortable with you and I can go through the rest of my life with you. And I want to thank everybody who's given me, all this support over the years and have helped me so much with everything in my life. You've got to be a good pupil before you can be a teacher. And it's like I had to be a pupil for a lot, and I learned a lot from my Swami, and I learned a lot from my father. I learned a lot from Lenny Tristano, my jazz teacher. But basically they were all saying the same thing, which was amazing. And that was, it's all about love. And it's like, I know it's a cliche, but I can't really pass on anything else to you but that, and to be loving, and for all of us to sort of expand and to get higher and to really stretch out and break the boundaries and not put up with the mediocrity. We're living in a place which is shimmering and pulsating with just amazing cosmic energy from the planets and from God and from your inner self. And it's like we are in a super state. We're divine beings in a human body, or a human body in a divine being. I can't really work it out. I don't know nothing. As each day goes past, I know less. It's a funny thing. You sort of just know less and less. But time is running out, or as they say, time is running in. All of us have got only a limited time. There are only a limited amount of Shpongled performances. There's only a limited amount of days. There's only a limited amount of loves you can have in your life. So let's make really every second count. And let's even make every nanosecond count in between the beats. And let's go further, and let's go better, and let's all help each other, and let's really be good to each other. And let's have more parties, and let's have better music. And whoever's writing music, let's write some better music. Let's go and have new projects and new time signatures and new keys and new explorations, because everything really is an experiment. And we are just one part of a gigantic cosmic experiment that is going on. And I'm happy to say the experiment is a success, because we're all here now either watching this or listening to this. And however long I've got left on this planet, I just want to say I love you. And it's been a great trip, and it's a great trip all the time, and we get so much support and so much love, and we're really learning to speak Shponglese, and we invite you to Shpongled, and we've got new music coming and new wonders and new magic. In fact, ineffable magic from Shpongled is coming. So gear yourselves up, undo your safety belt, unglue yourself, hold on tight. It's a white knuckle ride to infinity and back, and we're going to do it together, whatever happens, whatever the weather. And it's beautiful today. Boom Shankar, Om Namah Shivaya. It's Rajaram signing off on time as ever and saying thank you to Twisted Records and all the people that are doing this, Pixel Addicts and the whole crew of behind the stage and in front of the stage. And it's been a great time to spend with you and invite you to my house. Come again soon.